Hello everyone, it's Gold Gear. Ratchet and Clank is an action platformer and third-person shooter video game series that debuted in 2002 on the PlayStation 2. The franchise was created and developed by Insomniac Games, who were previously responsible for the Spyro the Dragon games. Developers have been able to make Ratchet and Clank games for 4 generations of consoles, and interestingly, unlike some other franchises, Ratchet and Clank games have only gotten better over time. I first encountered the series when I was 7 years old, and immediately fell in love with it. Ratchet and Clank have become my favorite video game characters, and 12 years later, nothing has changed. So, in this video, I just want to express my love for this franchise, and discuss how it has managed to last so long. So grab some snacks and let's get started. Ratchet and Clank has become my favorite franchise for a variety of reasons, but the most important are the characters, gameplay, setting and music. So let's talk about each of them, shall we? This series is full of amazing and memorable characters, and I'm afraid I can't talk about all of them, because it would take forever. But I will certainly mention a few of the most important ones. I think we should start with the titular characters themselves. Ratchet and Clank have been through a lot. At first, they couldn't stand each other, and only worked together because circumstances forced them to. But after a while, they became best friends, and it was really pleasant to watch their relationship develop. Ratchet went from being a stubborn jerk to a responsible and reasonable hero, and Clank, who started out as a naive nerd, became a confident and courageous movie star, a dimensional traveler, and a timekeeper. I'm really fascinated that the developers can still come up with interesting stories about this duo and further develop their characters.
We will find a way, like always.
Now let's talk about the two most fun characters. Of course, now I'm referring to Dr. Nefarious and Captain Qwark. Dr. Nefarious is a mad robot scientist and self-proclaimed supervillain who has tried to conquer the universe several times, but failed each time. He may not have much motivation, but he doesn't need it, because his main task is to amuse the players, which he successfully does. When he appears on screen, he steals the show every time.
What do you expect? I'm a supervillain!
Captain Qwark is also a pretty funny character, that also went through a lot of development. He is self-centered cowardly anti-hero, who is willing to help when it suits him personally. He was a villain in the first 2 games, but was sort of redeemed in the third. It's a joy to watch these characters interact with each other, and see how they have changed over the years. I can't wait to see what new amazing adventures await them. Alright, let's talk about the gameplay. I can play Ratchet and Clank games over and over again, and ended up wanting more. The formula of the games is quite simple. Ratchet usually needs to fly to some planet and get from point A to point B, and destroy a bunch of enemies along the way with a creative arsenal. The first game was a bit different from the rest, because it was more of a platformer with shooter elements, while later games became shooters with platformer elements. Even though the formula is simple, I think it's pretty ingenious, and that's one of the reasons why the franchise has managed to survive for so long. Let's take a look at some other franchises, like Crash, Spyro and Sly, because these games have one thing in common. The first games of these franchises were experimental and not quite perfect. The second ones were probably the best of the trilogy, because the developers took into account the mistakes and implemented their ideas better. And the third ones were, in my opinion, the least good ones, because the developers tried to add too many new things, like new playable characters, minigames, and vehicles, and it felt a bit overwhelming in a bad way. With Ratchet and Clank, it's different, because the developers did the exact opposite and started removing most of the other mechanics and improving and expanding the core gameplay. As I have said, the formula is simple, but it works perfectly because they can basically make the same game over and over again, but only change planets, enemies, and most importantly, weapons. As much as I love Spyro, I think I would get a little tired of the games if the developers kept doing the same thing without any major gameplay changes. But Ratchet doesn't need those changes, because when you get new weapons, the game becomes quite different, but at the same time it remains essentially the same. Developers just need to come up with new weapons and gadgets, and surprisingly, that's enough to keep the games interesting. The idea that each level is located on a different planet or space station is also amazing. It gives developers the freedom to create the worlds and characters they want without any hard constraints. It's always fun to fly to a new planet and find out who lives there and what gadgets can be found there. Like I said, there are basically no limits, and the possibilities are endless, which can't be said for some other franchises. Let's look at Sly Cooper, for example. The world building is great there, but the story takes place in a normal world, but only with talking animals, and the developers are limited because of that. But with Ratchet, they can do whatever they want. They have a whole universe to explore, and this gives them the ability to make many planets, create many creatures, and come up with many interesting stories. My favorite planets are probably from Rift Apart, because they don't look like regular video game levels, but like whole worlds full of creatures with their own stories. I am really amazed at how alive the planets are in this game, and I can't wait to see what new worlds Insomniacs will create in the future. For me, music is a very important part of the experience, because it helps create atmosphere and evoke feelings. Thankfully, Ratchet and Clank games have a lot of amazing music. A lot of people think that the soundtracks from the older PS2 games are better and more memorable, and I disagree, because most of my favorite tracks are actually from the later games. One of the reasons most people prefer the music from the first 3 games is probably nostalgia. The music in the PS3 games is completely different from the music in the PS2 games, and some people apparently can't accept this change. But why did the music change? The soundtrack had to adapt to games that changed direction. Stories in the PS3 games got bigger and tried to be like movies, so the music had to match. Either way, the soundtracks in these games are exceptional, so give them a listen if you haven't already, for some reason. So, Ratchet and Clank is a franchise that has too many things to love about it. I can't fully explain the impact it had on me, and I can't imagine my life without these guys. Well, actually I can. My life would be a lot more boring. I have to thank Insomniac Games for creating these characters and stories, and I am so grateful that they are still making these games and even improving them. I can't wait for their future adventures, and I'm sure they will be even more interesting now that Ribbit and Kid are on the team.
Where are we headed?
I think you know.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you love Ratchet and Clank as much as I do, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Do not forget to write in the comments about your attitude to these games. I would really like to read it. I am Gold Gear, thanks for watching, and stay gold.
We, still need to fix that arm.